So if you're going to put the parking so far away from the entrance, I hate to bring this up, but we're going to bring it up anyway. ADA, like, what if there's right?
Yeah.
Uh, that's really a long way. Is there another pathway that makes it simpler for them to get there?
Yeah, so I was imagine that in like extreme cases of need that this path could be driven on, but there's also a service route
So
that wraps around the back of the building
Right.
that could be used as well, just depending on need.
Okay, and then what exactly is this here?
Yeah, so that is an outdoor kind of garden. So this lawn opens into another lawn, which then there's a bunch of garden beds, and kind of a gravel area, and then some stone paving, and then water, and that breaks at the retaining wall, and then the site can be looked out of.
And I apologize, I bet you said this while you were describing the ecology, but do the plants have anything to do with horse riding?
I would say mainly the pasture grasses.
Yeah.
I picked out some for seasons, but besides that, the plants are, mostly for the aesthetic enjoyment and
Okay.
design.
So it's mostly for human enjoyment.
For sure.
Are they meant to be native, local?
They all are
So
native
it's sort of
to
an
the area.
It's sort of an extension of Bartram's ideas.
Yes.
And then maybe it's taking it on, like, I don't know if you know the landscape. I'll call her an artist, but she was really a landscape architect, Jekyll.
Oh my God.
Gerard. Gert Jekyll, yeah. It spelled like Jekyll and Hyde. Yeah. So the way that she worked, the early 20th century, the way that she worked was very painterly.
Okay.
And that might be fun to look her up a little
Yeah.
bit. Just how she planted and when things bloomed and all of that was very important. So she's really, she could be an inspiration.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the building, but we're going to be quiet first. So.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
It's so big,
It is very big.
and I'm not convinced by it because, frankly, the drawings are too small.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not convinced that you know how it's going to hold up.
Fair enough.
In terms of its structure. And I think
Sure.
that for this project, that's important.
I agree.
Yeah, it's almost like the plan is super interesting because like it's in a weird sort of way it reminds me of like a Boulay drawing where there's like this scale.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
like this like fairly registration of human scale, and then in this vast space,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, am I inside or outside? And it's like I'm not sure now. It has a roof, so I guess I'm inside. That's kind of where I'm like, okay. So I'm like kind of willing to buy into the vastness of the plan.
Yes.
But then I would really love to see you develop how exactly is this, if it's covered, how is it covered and where?
Yeah.
And is it one, massive, in this case it's sort of this, roll of tapered truss thing? Or is it something around the perimeter and then something else over the main ring, so there's a kind of a registration change above and below? And maybe there's a displacement there for additional light to get in.
Yes, there is.
And like, so there's like things like that, there's like opportunities that you can start to kind of break down the scale for your customers to start to use it as like an airplane hangar,
Yeah.
And it's like, and so I don't know why I'm thinking this, but like I'm wondering if, this kind of truss you're implying makes sense. Like what if it's a bow truss or something with a shape to it that might structurally do more for you? And I don't know that for sure. Those people talk to the structural guys who are done that. There's like an opportunity there, which I can see. So there's like this Boulay thing, and then there's this, I've talked about a monastery. Oh, there's this kind of monastic cloister feel to it as well.
Yeah.
Where you have,
Massive.
because there's the central cloister of the monastery, surrounded by the various elements of life for the monks. And it has that kind of feel to it. The plan of St. Gall is probably like the classic, which is a non-existent place.
Okay.
It's a very famous drawing of a non-existent place. but it kind of codified monasteries. So there's that, and then maybe there's this kind of relationship between the rest of your landscape work, which is kind of like a patchwork quilt,
Yeah.
you know, which I see as also showing up in your thinking about the different plants. You know, so you have these kind of different scales of quilting going on, which is really, really interesting. You know, like I can imagine doing a series of drawings about each one of the little landscape quadrants, just like you did for the different plants. So, you know, the perspective views are nice, but I can imagine like another version of this where it's like just one by one, just like
Yeah.
taxonomy in my project. This is this one, this is the mount one, this is the water, this is, you know, these are the characters that get organized and stuff like that. Is this and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that's like the fun of it. You know, you're like, okay, it's just gonna be flat. How with the topography? Like, okay. But then you juxtapose it with the meandering path, so that's maybe where there's the topography. I mean, maybe it's a little evasive of dealing with the topography, just call it flat. But that's there. You know, there's this kind of definitiveness of what you're doing. So I find it really, really interesting. And that's just about how you build it to really be viable.
Yeah.
You know, like you have this kind of faceted edge there on between in that little carved out space. What is that?
Yeah, so that the idea is that would be a kind of forgetting, but I know of a door that can be open and shut by sliding it.
Oh, an accordion door.
Yes, it's like an accordion, but on that facade would be primarily glass, and then
Would it actually be movable?
no,
Oh, just
it would be
like
fixed
it has
but
a
a
shape.
shear. Yes, a shear.
You can do that.
Yes, I don't expect to be able to open the wall.
Well, I mean, you can, right? The airport can use it.
Right.
It's super huge. It wouldn't be at that scale. I mean, it wouldn't be that's so small. It's interesting. I mean, I love that you can actually exist at multiple scales, at the Boulez scale, and at the horse and the child scale. I mean, there's some really lovely vignettes there that really explain how these spaces are separated and brought together. I'm curious about this central perspective. Is that anything still as part of the project?
Yeah. So these kind of
Oh, it's there.
plan is the idea of those moving across the building.
So
Where is that?
that's the.
These paper pieces.
Right there, but oh, that's not the structure for the stables. No.
No, just for the arena.
Oh, I see.
So, in a sense, when I look at your plan, the sort of two L's that make the edges, help me understand the immensity of the scale of the open space.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, is a square. So recognizable.
Yeah.
It also makes me think like it's not really enclosed, or is it enclosed? And I kind of like that idea that it could possibly not be fully enclosed. But I also realize that the structure for me is a little too emphatic in its edge quality, and I think a structural engineer would want you to figure out ways to shorten up that span somehow. And the first thing you'd want to do is like, can we put some more columns more in the interior? And be like, only if they had to do with maybe restating some of the edge conditions that you've set up.
Okay.
So, you know, the structural line could be delineation between the welcome center and the arena, for example. And then you cantilever that. And the structural line could be perhaps someplace, and the structure has to be at a scale that's between like the stables and those teeny tiny little things. Like you're missing a scale in between.
Yeah.
Somehow, which again, is you're sort of restating or working your way around the edge in the same way that the Toy Story you brought up. does, and affords this whole layer of series of spaces that you need. It might make your, big room a little bit smaller, but I don't think that would be necessarily a bad thing. It's the same way that sort of like ambulatories work, which is the same thing as a cloister.
Right.
It's very common. You have a sort of restaging around and around and around. So I always think that there are perimeter buildings and there are center buildings. And there's not one center building that doesn't have a perimeter, and there's not one perimeter building that escapes without having a center. So there's always this dialogue back and forth, and the more that you can sort of play tension with those, I think the more it continues to sort of release the center. So that's kind of where, for me, that's where your building is at the moment. Something we haven't talked that much about. But I do wonder if it has to be enclosed.
Yeah, it's an open question. One of the side notes, like your welcome center right now feels like it's there to do something on that edge, but it's not really well qualified yet.
Yeah.
It's like what's going on there. It's just it's on a it's like just space. I've been sitting here wondering like about the enclosure thing, like what is the scale of structure we're talking about? And just as a thought, my guess would be if there was a baseball field in here, it would be about here. I'm guessing, roughly 90 feet first base to home, right? So that's about a baseball field. Baseball fields are really interesting for many reasons besides opening days in about a week. They're one of the few fields when you're in an airplane, you look down, you know exactly what you're looking at. You never mistake a baseball field for what it is. So if that's a baseball field, then there's a whole, and then you got the outfield, right? So that's, to my mind, that's where I think you are in scale. And there are baseball fields, that have comparable roofs, close stadiums. That's kind of where you are.
Yeah.
So then that's the reference. You're like, oh, how do I do that?
Yeah.
Right. Or you
It's a
take,
clear stand.
or you say, like a baseball field, the only things that are covered are the stands.
Yeah.
Play that game as well. Lovely, lovely drawings. I really enjoy them. I hope you continue to draw this way. I really appreciate you sharing this with me.
Tessa, your favorite part? Tessa, sorry. Sorry, Mom.
I hear it all the time. I think that this project for me, I feel like I wish that there had been like a deeper exploration in the building itself, but for me, my favorite part was everything else, and also the making of the project. It was like felt important to me that the experience of the drawings was in some way akin to the experience that I wanted to create there, and so. But a lot of that experience is outside of the building, and so there's maybe kind of an inconsistency there that I'm, maybe slightly unsatisfied with, but I still really enjoyed that kind of process.
Thank you so much.